Welcome to the No Script Show, where we live in a world where the president of Haiti just got assassinated, but the most important thing is your tweets on Twitter. How's it going, gents?
I am great, Wotan. It's good to be back again, bro. It's always awesome talking to you.
It's always awesome. Yeah. What do you, so, guys, joke aside, the president of Haiti literally got assassinated, and and our home country is in flames. And Cuba's overthrowing socialism, which isn't real socialism, by the way. So I guess we can talk about Conor McGregor real quick because I know Dumo thinks that he's on the way up, but I don't think I don't know, man. The man's taken some major L's.
He's
Yeah.
past his prime.
Real guys, come on, man.
To
I don't know
Poirier?
what-
To Dustin? Really? That's who he's taking an L against? Damn, bro.
Yeah, he's done. He's done.
But his leg broke, guys. Come on. I mean, like, those things happen. Like, even at the last MMA that I watched, the guy broke his leg during mid-fight. I think maybe after he recovers, give him about like 15 months. He might have one more.
Yeah, he's
And
going to
then
be
we could-
older by then as well. So
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
'Cause I mean-
Okay. I'm willing to take this bet. I will wager. Let's say right now
All right.
it'll be recorded. I am happy to record a I was wrong and Duma was right video and wager 100 rand on it. If McGregor makes any kind of comeback in the next 2 years, I'm happy to do that. I'm putting that down right now on the table. Yes, I'll do that.
Does a comeback count as a win? Does he have to get into a match and win, or just get back into a match?
He has to take a win. He has to
Okay.
get that done.
Yeah. The problem is there's people that make money off of it. So yes, he is going to come back and win matches, but it's not going to be open matches. It's just the guy's 33. Your career span in MMA is very short. 33 is it's old in fighting, very old.
Okay,
So if he does anything substantial, it's going to be rigged most of the time.
So you might join WWE then, I guess.
Hey, if he wins
like
any
Brock.
kind of championship belt against like a top tier fighter in the next 2 years, I will happily record it. I was wrong. Put 100 rand. I'll even make it the rand value of the rand right now because let's be honest, in 2 years from now, the value of the rand is going to be even less. So, yeah.
Fair. But I mean, guys, remember, I just maybe I can draw a parallel here, but I haven't been following this guy, right? What's his name? Anderson Silva, the Brazilian fighter.
Oh shit! Yeah. I
He also had a
forgot about that.
leg break, right?
Oh,
So,
I
and he
remember.
was-
Yeah. And I think he was like 38 when it happened, and he came back, right? Did he? Or maybe
I forgot
I
about
missed
that.
it.
His leg looked like jelly, bro.
Yeah, that was the worst. Oh man, I hate those injuries, man. I hate them. Oh, it's
Yeah,
fair
but,
enough.
but when did he stop fighting?
Anderson Silva. Let me check. Maybe he's still
In
fighting now.
2000? No, in 2030.
All right.
Okay, so we are now in 2021, and we've seen this over since they started with MMA. In the beginning, the fighters are older. Your good fighters are older until the sport takes hold in general, and you get more gyms and stuff and better training and all of that. And as the sport gets more competitive, your expiry age goes lower and lower and lower. You see this in lots of sports. Motor racing is one of them. In the beginning, all the guys that do well are old, are your old timers. And then as they start training the younger chaps and it gets more competitive, your expiry age goes down.
Okay.
This is true. So,
So
are
I'm making
you saying,
bet here,
Martin, that we're at a point where, yeah? I was asking, do you think we're at that point now where your older guys are actually going to get usurped by the youngins?
Yeah, I think if I would say about 30 is going to be the max of the average of where guys say, okay, now you're going into retirement or you go and fight in the senior league or whatever they want to do. You'll have your one or two guys that's the exception to the rule. But in general, I think we're getting to the point where if the second you start nearing your 30s, you're done for competitive MMA fighting.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I've made a
Alright.
good bet there.
All right. Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
That-
But then again, I cannot stress this enough. The president of Haiti just got clapped up, bros. My man-
Why does it surprise you, Odin? It's Haiti.
Yeah, that's
That is-
true.
It's not exactly Britain, stable, dying country. I mean, it's you can basically substitute Haiti with Nigeria or Ivory Coast or any of those countries. It's a shit show.
Haiti is actually worse than those even. Like, if we have to be objective, Haiti's history, particularly with political, it's a mess. I don't think they've ever been stable, actually.
Yeah, I mean the president that got assassinated now. There's been questions about the legitimacy of his appointment since day one.
Oh my word. So even this guy that got assassinated, he got in questionably.
Yes, because they had the
Oh.
election, and then there was irregularities with the counting, whatever. Then they had another election, and then all of a sudden, the one stat off the top of my head, he got, I can't remember, 60% of the vote or something like that. But exit polls only showed him getting 7%.
Oh
You had
my.
major discrepancies, major issues with the election. I would have thought he would have been taken out a bit earlier than he was.
Good old
Hmm.
Zimbabwean democracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, now
No,
okay. No, Koketo, you start. Sorry, man. I've been talking.
no, I was gonna say that, I'm pretty sure someone has like a historical recollection of like Haiti's presidents since I think they were the first, post-slave colony, if I can put it like that.
The first?
Yeah,
Really?
they were I think they were actually the first. They hold that honor, but since name, I think someone Duvalier, even since his time, it's just always been a mess. Yeah, Duvalier himself, this guy had like a secret military. He had a secret military within a secret military because he was afraid of being assassinated. So
Jeez.
it's war within the culture in Haiti.
Oh, okay. So it's just business as usual then.
It is
Yeah.
business as usual. Duvalier died like I think in the 70s. So yeah.
I mean, I've got friends here in the military, and they're like, God, we hope we don't get deployed to Haiti, because like, what my one friend, he's like, it's not that it's gonna be a challenge. It's just that A, it's a mess, and B, he's semi sort of superstitious, and he's like, there are things on that island that are evil that go bump
they
in the
do
night.
voodoo stuff there. Like they legit, the state religion is like actual voodoo worship and stuff. So I don't know. Tell your
agree.
friend that if he does get deployed there, I mean, I think Haiti, they share island space with Dominican Republic, yeah?
Mm.
And we all know Dominican Republic from like Miss Universe and Miss World or whatever. So, hey, I'm just saying that, if you get deployed to Haiti, you're only about 50 kilometers away from ridiculously beautiful women. So, hey.
Yeah,
That's
you
all-
can
that's-
you
I
can
mean,
defect.
That's true. But I just I agree that there's things on that island that go bump in the night. I don't care if you put me in a Humvee with all the coolest guns. Like, I'd still be scared to step foot on that island. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, there's some evil shit there. Unless you give me like an M1A2 Abrams, bruh. I will take anything in an Abrams tank. Even a fucking, I don't know, even Godzilla would get his fucking fade run by an M1A2. That thing is monstrous. I will send Godzilla right back to the fucking sea in an M1A2. But anyway, yeah.
You know what is weird, eh? What I found, these African diaspora countries, I thought that because they were far away from Africa, far away, I wouldn't say too far. I thought perhaps they would like be better off, you know what I mean, right? Because many of them were slaves that were taken, and then just like countries like Jamaica, for example, those are stopping points for for slavers and stuff like that when they went to the US from Africa. And I thought, well, if all these African diaspora countries would actually be better. But it seems like now that you got this person getting assassinated and Ivory Coast following the same trend, I was like, what is going on? You'd swear that Haiti is like, just as far away from Africa as Madagascar is, if you think about it from a geographical perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't you find that weird?
It is weird, actually, now that you point that out.
Well, no, but if you look at the history of the Caribbean islands, yes, they were the stops along the slave trade. But the problem is when they got colonized, when the Europeans landed there, like Columbus and those chaps, a lot of the indigenous people were either taken into the slave trade or just killed off. Mm-hmm. So, and then after the decolonization project of the 40s and 50s, they were minorities on the islands, basically, or they were subjects, and they got, like in all countries, they got elevated, put on a pedestal. So they're suffering from a severe identity crisis in most of those islands and countries, where there's a cultural identity crisis because they're fighting for their traditional rights but trying to keep the westernization, and it's a recipe for disaster. It always has been a recipe for disaster, same as in Africa as well.
Interesting.
Game was rigged from the start, kid.
Yeah,
that's yeah. Well, there's that.
And also, if you look at how the your countries like Britain and France, Portugal and Spain, how the idea behind the decolonization project, it's working like it's supposed to. The countries were supposed to be unstable. That was by design. It's not a fault. It's a feature because because that's what they did, and that's what all of them did. You go and you look who's the culture, the traditional factions in the country, and you take the minority one and you put him in power, because he's going to listen to you and do what you want him to do, because otherwise the majority is going to take him out. And he keeps worrying about the majority, so he keeps you for backup, and the majority as the minority opponent that they focus on, and they forget about the original colonizers. It's an old trick that the British and the French and those guys used with the colonies.
Jeepers.
Once they left.
That's like
This
some evil
is
stuff,
very
bro.
true.
Yeah, wow.
I'm actually kind of impressed. Like, it's super evil, but I'm actually kind of impressed.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
put it this way. Yeah, go ahead, Doom.
No, now Martin, because I can see you're very clued up on these things, and like this is great, honestly. Maybe I don't want to take the conversation away from Haiti yet, but you said the British and the French did this. Now, are there examples of this in let's say South Africa, for example? Because I mean, there is this big decolonization project that you see at universities, but is this by the British, or is these sporadic movements?
No. Why do you think South Africa got the whites was placed in the government when the British started leaving South Africa? I mean, all the way up into about 61, more than half of our parliament was either directly or indirectly working for the British. It was effectively British government employees sitting in our government.
Interesting.
That's why, because South Africa is the exception, because nearly all of the other countries, when the original colonizers left, they still put a minority leader in charge, but it was a black minority leader in charge. Okay, in South Africa, they didn't have that option because of the amount of tribes and stuff for some reason, and obviously at that stage the whites had a lot more control over the resources and the land surface, because we were mostly situated in all the big resource hubs or trade ports. And so they put a white government in control, and then left them to do what they did.
Wow. I don't know, guys, but my mind has been blown in. Just saying,
I mean, if Jan van Riebeeck landed in Namibia and he opened Cape Town in Namibia, they would have had the shit that we had today, basically. So it's just by chance the minority that had the most probability to sort of run the country happened to be the whites in South Africa. That's one of the few differences between what happened in South Africa and the rest of the other African countries.
Yeah, I can believe that, because if you look what happened, if you just go north up Africa, particularly Central Africa, Eastern Africa as well. Yeah, similar things actually happened there as well. With Central African Republic, the French put in their guy there, and he was from a minority tribe. Sometimes not even a minority ethnic group, but you get someone from a majority ethnic group, but from let me say a smaller tribe within that ethnic group. So under normal circumstances, this is not someone who would have ruled in any capacity at such a scale. So yeah, this does actually play into that, and that person is guaranteed to fail. Like there's just no way. There isn't a single success story where that person, where that individual anywhere in the world actually comes out and does things for the better. So yeah, if you put it that way, then yeah, you could argue there that it is actually well within the plan that they install these kind of people, because the results are the same regardless.
No, it was definitely by they did it in even Palestine. I can't remember which was which, but you've had Sunnis and the Shia Muslims in Palestine. I think the Shia was the minority group there in that instance, but it's split along religious lines, not ethnic lines like in other countries. And then they just put the minority faction, put them in charge, and they can't go against the Western country that put them in power, because they need the funding and the support.
And the military aid as well against the majority.
To fight, and in most instances, the country that was colonized, there was still on a honor system, a tribal honor system, which is long gone in Western countries. I mean, it's gone centuries ago already. So they work, if someone comes and kills your brother, then you are obligated to go and reprise the murder of your brother. And you have got blood feuds and long-standing feuds between the different tribes or religious groupings or whatever. So that's they can't lose power, because losing power means they lose the ability to protect themselves from the reprisals of their opponents. So that's why the colonizing countries did that, because they know if you keep the us and them narrative going, they'll leave you alone. They don't go and look who's the hand behind the scenes and fight and band together and fight that. They fight each other the whole time, which is exactly what our government is currently doing in South Africa, is they're keeping the us them narrative going. So they're telling the majority of the people that, oh, there's the reason why you're doing badly. And the government can keep doing what they're doing in the background, and the two groups are fighting each other the whole time.
That is something, bro. That is something.
Yeah, but we still flexed on them in the Rugby World Cup, so who cares? Still flexed on you in that Rugby World Cup. Still took that L. No, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, speaking of home, seeing as I'm stateside and I've got a million people asking me a million things about back home and like, is your family okay and all that, and I get it because that's what you see. But first of all, let me preface this by saying, you guys realize the size of South Africa is like the size of a large chunk of Western Europe combined. It's actually a pretty big country. It's what's going on is going on in admittedly key areas, but yeah, it's a pretty big country. But I guess you guys are more poised right now to talk about that than me, so have at it.
Who wants to start?
Well, I hear what you said, and it's in certain small areas of the country where it's going to hell in a handbasket. But go look in any country. If it's going badly in your big metropolitan hubs, the country's doing badly.
That's true. Fair point.
No one cares about two guys kicking the shit out of each other in the middle of the sticks. But if it goes down in an urban center, that affects the whole country. So if you've got unrest in, let's say, Pretoria, Durban, Cape Town, and Polokwane, you can, by the number of people affected, can say that the country is in turmoil because of the amount of people affected. So it's limited, but it's not limited in another sense.
It's limited, but in critical areas, which I agree with, actually. Yeah. So it is actually pretty bad. But I don't know if any of you Oaks are directly experiencing it where you live. But I will say this. That actually, this is probably the only main thing I can contribute to the subject right now is sort of this thing. One, I hate the amount of like fucking fake videos and stupid shit I see on Twitter right now. Like that just drives me. It's like, this picture is from 2010, you idiot, or whatever.
Old Cole Nias putting pictures of Mexico or Venezuela up and saying, no, look at the white people looting.
Oh yeah.
It's like, this shit's so fake.
That was funny.
There's plenty of actual looting going on for you to point to. That's my one thing. And then the other thing is, as always, is I would like to say an unabashed big fuck you to all the racial fomenters from each side in this whole thing. You've got, obviously the anti-white crew saying, that they deserve this, let it all burn. And then you've got like the anti-black crew who like, and it's always some rando fucker with like the old South African flag as their banner on their Twitter profile, or like the old Buddha flag, like the old flag of the Transvaal, which I have nothing against actually, because that's not actually a hate symbol, but it's always
the
some
Burlington flag.
Yeah, or some like picture of a dude on the Great Trek with his wagon, whatever. That's always the profile, and it's always like, Fricky 587 or what the fuck ever. That's the it is. It always is. Guarantee you. And they're always like, oh, we knew it. You see, you and it's also people from outside of South Africa, like the fucking grapers with their frog avies and shit. It's like, should have kept apartheid going. Oh, it's because they ended up apartheid or whatever. It's like, it's because they took the blacks out of government. They took the whites out of government. And to them, I say a big fuck you to you too, because Botswana is a thing. They're doing mostly fine. And then people are going to be, and also I notice areas like, I don't know, Moldova and, Uzbekistan, Serbia, all those Eastern Bloc countries. I notice a distinct lack of the brothers, as quote unquote, in that area of the world, and yet they're not exactly doing fucking fantastic either. And then people are going to be like, oh, Botswana's only doing well because it's a very uniform country and all that and all that. I'm like, cool. Explain North and South Korea, because North Korea is a pretty fucking uniform country with a very strong leader who can literally do whatever he wants, and they're not doing great either. Could it be that maybe it's nothing to do with your race, it's everything to do with the ideology your country follows? Just a thought.
I think that's one, but also you must remember there's only like 5 people in Botswana.
Hey.
Martin, come again?
Hey, hold up.
What's Botswana's? Let's check. What's Botswana's population now? I just want to check.
Should be just under 2.4 million.
Yeah.
Oh, what you mean, like our population in Mpumalanga, basically?
Hey.
Well, okay, wait, hold up.
You can say everybody
to Botswana's defense here, but why are you taking issue with the fact that in Botswana people aren't beating like rabbits?
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying it as a negative thing. I'm saying that's why they're doing reasonably well, because they've got a relatively small population.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got the same. Go and look at your Western countries like Sweden and Switzerland and those places. They've got a relatively small population, and if your differences, because the larger population gets, the more pronounced the differences become in the country amongst the populace, because everybody's contending for a limited amount of resources. So in a country with a smaller population, it's easier to get it running smoothly. That's why Botswana can afford to take the ostrich approach to the economy instead of gunning for it.
Yeah,
Because we've got a
I
small
agree with
population.
that. Yeah, I agree with that, but I'll raise you this, right? I think it's not so much a population as in a numbers issue, but more a cultural one. So Botswana has a monoculture. Everyone speaks Setswana. Everyone is expected to speak Setswana. When you land at the airport, the two languages on the signs is Setswana and English, not even English and Setswana. The evening news are in Setswana. You get what I mean? So they have a monoculture, and that is a
big plus for them.
Factor. And if I look at their approach, just before Duma cuts in, I'd have to say that this is actually a reason why perhaps you'd want to split up South Africa somewhat, so that you can have your different, I don't even want to say necessarily provinces, but you can have different countries out of South Africa where each one will be a hell of a lot smaller, but the effect is they'll have a smaller population, and you can then benefit from instigating a monoculture or building up a monoculture in the different countries that could make up what we now know as South Africa. So just a thought there too.
The thing is that people keep clinging to this monoculture idea, which will never work. It just doesn't work. But you've got good examples. Switzerland is one, and to a degree the States as well, where like in Switzerland, you got the cantons. They got a canton system. I mean, you go from one canton to another, you're moving from German canton to a French canton. And it's literally, the one is German, street signs are German, everything is done in German. And in the French one, everything's done in French, for instance. And the states as well. Each state in America is effectively its own country. Because if you go from one state to the next, you can literally see the difference in the populace. If you interact with the people, it's a different place completely. In South African context, we've got so many different cultures in South Africa that to try and get everybody to work under operate exactly the same set of rules and same way of doing things, it's going to be impossible. You cannot do it.
Yeah. Going to South Africa, I don't know. I mean, from what I've observed, I mean, what you said now, Koketo, the monoculture thing, it does have its benefits. I mean, I've seen it in Denmark, and but I mean, again, someone could say, what about North Korea? Okay, fair enough.
That's what I say. It's not that it's a monoculture, because North Korea is a big monoculture.
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So now I was just saying that it may play a role. But I mean, even in South Africa, I mean, as you mentioned now, Martin, when you said these different cantons, right? And you even see it in South Africa. Like if I go, let's say for example, right, I go to the Eastern Cape, for example. Like again, unofficially the language there is Xhosa, and even when I go to the Western Cape, unofficially the language there is Xhosa. And I'm talking about interactions with Black people, of course.
No.
Obviously, if you go to places like Port Elizabeth, or now they call it Gqeberha or whatever, they speak mainly English, right? It's English, and there's some Sotho people, and there's a lot of Afrikaans people, right? Grahamstown, more or less the same thing. But if you go more into the rural areas, it's the more rural, the more closer, basically, right? And again, you see these different cantons. Like when you go to Mthatha, for example, to the plaza, and you're going to the shops. And I remember the one time we're buying stuff from there. All the signs were written in Xhosa, like even the aisle queues, everything was written in Xhosa. And I found this quite a bit challenging, because I can read a bit of Xhosa, I can speak Xhosa, but then the thing is that I had to go to the guys that work there and ask them, where do you find this? Where do you find that? Where do you find that? And I was taken aback by that, right? So I think, but again, the province is still, like, I'm not saying it's a nonsense province, but especially in the rural areas, they can do far better. And, I mean, if you go to Mthatha, for example, potholes everywhere, like there's no tomorrow. But, they have some good businesses going along. But if you go to Gauteng, maybe similar problems, but it's run a bit better. And then if you go to Western Cape, obviously that's like pinnacle. But, I mean, I just wanted to just, highlight really these different
But you see-
cantons, it
but
actually
you see-
is apparent in South Africa. Yeah, sorry, Martin, my bad.
But that's the weird thing for me about South Africa is we've got our government's trying to centrally control how everybody does everything, and on the ground like you said, you can see people automatically sort of group into this quasi cantons in any case, but now the government says now everybody has to have the same education system, the same healthcare, everything must be uniform. They're trying to uniform all the rules and all the ways of doing things for everybody, and the people are naturally going into the groups like they would naturally congregate, and then with the actual infrastructure running, you've got the central government distributes the funds to the different provinces, and then each province can decide how much he is going to take for his cadres, how much goes for personal, and how much goes to the public. And that's the weird thing. So you've got provinces that can run their own province, but under the set of rules of the central government, and the people at the bottom don't want either, which is a weird setup. I don't know how we got to that point in the first place. Well, we know how we got there, but I don't know how the people allowed it to get there. Because like this thing is, if you take education for once, like I said, if you in Rustenburg area, you're going to have majority Setswana people. If you go up to Louis-Trichardt, Messina, it's mostly going to be Venda and so on, Zulus, Xhosas, all over the show. If each community is able to decide what education or what language of education, for instance, is going to suit them the best regarding looking at the people in the area, the level of education, the quality of the education is already going to be better. And it'll also address a lot of the issues that's being raised by people constantly. Like, oh no, African languages are not being developed. Well, they won't be developed if you don't allow people to develop the languages. It'll never happen if you stop them from developing it. And the same goes for your how smaller municipalities are run and all of that. People aren't going to develop and learn how to run things if you don't allow them to learn how to run things. Because they keep saying you have to do this like this, you have to do, but it sounds counterintuitive, but you have to allow the people to learn how to develop their own communities, to develop their own municipalities, and so on, going from the ground up, to be able to do it. If they don't develop it themselves, they're not gonna know how to do it. Firstly, they're not going to look after it. Secondly, because you can see, especially if you go and look at the townships, you get there if you drive through there, any township in South Africa, drive through the township and then go to Gaborone and drive through Gaborone, and you'll see the stark difference. Because the people in the townships, it's almost as, and you see this in the general attitude as well. The people they don't accept the townships as their home. It's
okay.
You hear the lot of people say they're going home for the long weekend, then they're going to their family members that's up in the rural areas, and you go back to the townships where they live day in and day out, where they work and they stay in their schools are, and you can see there's no respect for the place. It's litter everywhere. No one looks after anything, but it's because they haven't accepted it as their home. Because most of them flock to the township areas to get close to the jobs, because the government says that's where the jobs are. That's what you have to do. Go to the cities, get work. And they never accepted it as their homes. Their homes they still go home for long weekends, for Easter and Christmas and all of those things. It strikes as one of the things that happens because of the government trying to force people to do everything and the same as everyone else.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a ramble. Sorry, guys.
I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah, man. One small point before whoever else wants to jump in. I think the language development thing. I think for me that's I think Martin, you made a very good point there, because even my parents, when they were at school, they learned my dad learned in his home language, and and he's doing quite well. I think also the development of African languages is also challenging, because what you need to understand, like what I've noticed, right? This is something that I will tell you. I like philosophy, right? If you look at guys like Aristotle and so forth and so forth and so forth, you read up on that. Then, now the problem is that now in some of these African languages, right? And again, some of them have not been developed yet, as you mentioned, because they haven't been given a chance to do so. But one thing I was speaking to another closer friend of mine, and I said, okay, how do you explain something like ontology or epistemology and stuff like that in Xhosa? And then, he looked into the air and he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, you see, that's the problem. The problem is that we might be at a point where the languages can be developed, but then at the same time, the languages may lose their flavor when they are developed. That's what I'm worried about. And it might come to the point that if the languages are not developed, it'll come to the point where it's like, okay, I'll learn, let's say, basic stuff in my home language, but then when I go to philosophy, I'm going to learn it in English. So I will know how to speak Xhosa fluently on the one end, or anyone speaking Tswana or Zulu on one end, but then on the other end they'll be like, okay, but this stuff is in English, I'll learn it in English. And I've seen a lot of black people do that, right? Where they become proficient in both languages so that they can still be connected with their communities should they visit them and need to visit them. But at the same time, if they want to gain knowledge, they learn it in English. Now my thing is that, would it be worth doing it? Because you see, it's not like Afrikaans, for example. Afrikaans developed quite rapidly in a short space of time. I mean, I was quite surprised to see, when I'd go to some, when I went to Tux the one time, and then, they had a lot of stuff that you would see in English in Afrikaans. And I was quite
Tux of
taken aback by that. Yes. You know what I mean? And even in the libraries and stuff like that.
Alma mater.
So I was like, wow, this is great. But now that's because the Afrikaans people did that for a long period of time. Now I'm wondering, for other African tribes, it just seems that if you want to develop I'm not saying they shouldn't. I mean, it would be a very good endeavor to take part in. But I've seen that it seems that for the sake of efficiency, you will go to primary school speaking your home language, and then you would go to a high school that speaks English or something like that, and therefore you got the best of both worlds, so that you can actually still pursue your endeavors economically, but then you can still be connected with your community. And I've seen a lot of black people have taken that path, because developing it's a vocation. It takes quite a long time. But sorry, that's just my little opinion on that. But I do think that we should develop African languages. I totally agree with your point there.
Anyone else have something to say before I go off on a rant again? Okay,
No.
just a few points. Firstly,
Obligatory ticks off next, just by the way. And also, I don't think myself and Koketso are in the exact same boat as the rest of the tribes in South Africa, given our very specific context. But that's it. That's all I have to say.
What Wotan said.
I liked your point that you made with epistemology and that, but I'll give you an even simpler example, and I've mentioned this to Odin in the past as well. A simple concept like a promise. If I say, I promise I'm going to go to bed early, something like that, something simple. English, we understand because it's an abstract concept. The concept is promise. A promise is an abstract concept. So in English we have that. In Afrikaans we've got that sorted. And I know Tswana, there is an actual word that describes the same concept of a promise.
But there's a reason Episode Sepang, all that is so popular.
But now, if you go to Zulu, and I think Xhosa as well, there isn't a word that exactly describes the concept of a promise. The closest you can get is, I will try my best. Now, imagine a Tswana or an Afrikaner interacting with a Zulu, and they promise to do something, but the concept is understood differently by the two because that's the languages that they work in. But now, like when you said Afrikaans developed rapidly, it didn't really develop that quickly. I mean, it started shortly after people settled in the Cape, which was in 1652. That the EFF doesn't allow us to forget. But it took years, and it was an ongoing thing. If you go and look at Afrikaans that was spoken in the late 1800s versus the Afrikaans that's spoken now, it's completely different. And one thing you should remember, if you take English, for instance, English developed over hundreds of years. Okay. You had Middle English, and then it progressed. But you had a bunch of different variations of English being spoken in the region of where England is now, or Britain is now. And over the years, as the languages evolve, some of them, they borrow from the other regions, the other dialects around them. And then slowly but surely, some of them dies off completely, and some of them gets amalgamated to form a new language. And if you allow the languages to evolve, like people will evolve them if nothing hinders them, some of the languages will fall into disuse, and some of them will be modified into something else, or it will evolve into something else over time. The same happened with Afrikaans as well, because it's a mix of a lot of different languages, like seriously a lot of different languages. But the Afrikaners had the fortune of being allowed to have primary schools in their mother tongue, to have high schools in their mother tongue, and to have universities in their mother tongue. And I think if you allow the same in South Africa, yes, some of the languages will basically go extinct. And like I said, the flavor of the language will change. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
Okay.
if you go to a restaurant and you order a plate of food, and you taste the food and, okay, it needs a bit of salt. You put salt on it, you change the flavor. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You see what I'm saying? Right.
I hear you. One thing though, I think there is a concept for promise in Xhosa, but you see the thing is that again, you'll find that in like Zulu and Xhosa there'll be one word, but it can mean different things in different contexts. For example, the word like Temba means to trust, but you can also take the word as Tembiso. So Temba is the verb, which means to trust, but it doesn't necessarily mean to make a promise. But you can get the words Tembiso, and Tembiso is a promise, you know. But then that's the closest that you can get to. But then there's the word that's pretty much what it is. But I understand there are some Western concepts that cannot be fully translated into into the Nguni languages. Only if that person understands English, then they would understand that concept. But then it also goes the other way as well, all right? So there's a lot of concepts within within Zulu and Xhosa, for example, that just cannot be translated into English. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get it exactly. You can't get, like, for example, there was that song, remember that song Tolugutsi, where now I remember all the white people were asking, what does Tolugutsi mean? And we're like, and I'm like,
that's a difficult one to explain.
I'm like,
okay, guys, have at it.
Hold up. Never mind. Never mind that. Remember when all the white people were dancing to Mandoza at weddings?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my! I was like, they're like, so what's up with this? I'm like, this is just sit down. It's just no.
Thing is,
come on. Now you've really piqued my interest. I need answers now, chaps.
All right. So for Toluguti, it's like you see this is the thing, right? This is the best I can do on it. And I remember I asked someone from Newcastle about this, and he said, yeah, but okay, it's also like for example, it can mean only to find out, but it can also mean like, and then this, it can mean a lot. But the thing is that, like, ask any black person, they're gonna look at you and they'll just be like, I can't translate it. But I think the best way to say it is only to find out. But then still, even then, you can still use Toluguti to do something else. Yeah.
Actually, even given the definition, doesn't really it doesn't really expand on the context it can be used in.
Okay. So I'm going to take a stab at an English equivalent that's used in South Africa. Seriously.
No.
The word seriously, how we use seriously.
Okay.
Sorry. Telling you a story like seriously.
It's maybe halfway there.
But it's sort of in the same vein. That's what I'm getting from.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's like you can use. It's one of those words that you can use as a statement of surprise or discontent, and it's got you depending situationally and the context of when you use it defines what it means basically.
Yeah, okay, along those lines, yeah, that's you can draw a somewhat parallel there, and that's probably a good example.
Okay. So
and the next one.
Okay. All right. There's one example. Okay, no. Continue, Martin. Sorry, I'll give you one example after your one.
No, that's why I'm waiting for you guys to explain the Mendoza one to me still.
Oh, that one. I don't know.
It's a rubbish song. It's a rubbish word. I was like let's call a spade, right? But okay, fine. Sorry, continue. I'm just a bit irritated because I'm slightly hungover still. Probably that's probably it.
Yeah, look, it's not about the song; it's more about the beat. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd say that.
But it this reminds me of what's that Gangnam Style song that everybody went mad over a while ago.
Yeah.
And do you know what this song is about?
Oh, what is it? Please,
Gangnam.
I would like to know.
I remember seeing a video about it, but it's gone now. I don't even remember anymore.
It's Gangnam is a suburb.
It's a district, right? Yeah.
Yeah, district in South Korea. But the thing that South Korea has got a weird way of working. And let's take Samsung for instance. Samsung is one of the few companies in the country that you can work for and actually make a decent living, have a fairly comfortable lifestyle. But if you work for Samsung is your life. If you work for Samsung, you live in a Samsung-controlled suburbs. Your kids go to Samsung-controlled finance schools. Your theme parks that you go, the theme parks that you go to is paid for by Samsung. All of that, very socialist commie vibe. So the song criticizes the people living in Gangnam, which is one of these upper class. It's like your middle and top management of the big companies that stays in this suburb. So the song actually criticizes them heavily, but like seriously heavily. And a lot of the South Korean intellectuals or commentators or whatever you want to call them, I said if the song didn't become so popular, that artist would probably be sitting in jail because he criticized the middle to upper class people in the country and by extension the government. So if the song wasn't that popular, he would have probably been in jail or executed in the quiet of the night and no one would have known. But luckily for him, it did go huge, and they didn't want to risk the exposure that it would give if all of a sudden he got locked up in jail for criticizing the wealthy people in the country.
Wait, is this North or South Korea?
South Korea.
Really?
Yeah. Wow, remember, South Korea is still communist, dude.
That's just a very North Korea style way of doing things.
Yeah, I can, or even China. I would expect China to do that. But when you say communist, are you saying like in the sense that they have, because what I've noticed, like let's say in China, for example, right, their economies are, well, relatively compared to Mao. I'm going to say, let's say Mao as in totally communistic, and anything moving away from Mao is capitalistic. So if you use that scale, right, it seems that like with China, they moved away from it, but then from a more authoritarian style of ruling, they still have this like, if you do this, you're out of line, you're gone. So I don't know, is it like that in South Korea? How is it?
What South Korea did is initially they had the big SOEs, like Daewoo was a full-on SOE, and then Daewoo went belly up, And then they realized what every communist regime realized at some point is that a government can't do jack. They can't run anything properly. They're going to screw everything up. So they started Samsung. So Samsung is a private corporation, in quotes, but you've got government officials sitting on the board of Samsung. So the private sector, the private sector runs the company, make sure it's run efficiently, does what it needs to do to keep the company profitable and expanding. But then there's government officials on the board to make sure that it doesn't make the country look bad, or that it serves the political purposes in the country. Stuff like the specific neighborhoods where the employees live, depending on their position in the company and stuff like that. And China did very much the same thing, except that they mainly use threat of violence to keep the private companies in check. So if you can have your private company and you can run it, and I'm sure there's a certain amount of certain fees that has to be paid to the government. But if you start doing something that's deemed by the ruling party as being negative towards the government, they will rein you in with a massive amount of force. So what they're doing is they're just putting a veneer of capitalism over the communist way of doing things, because they realize that a government can't run jack. It just can't. It's a government. You can't run a country with a government, because governments, you have to keep on putting more people in to try and get the thing to run properly, and it becomes too big and cumbersome, and it just collapses at some point, which is what happened with Daewoo. Because we all know bureaucracy just never stops. If there's nothing to rein it in, it will just keep on expanding. And we see it and say, look at our government. How big is our government now? Just in the last 30 years. It is insane how it just grows like a cancer. So, but South Korea is definitely still, I wouldn't say full on communist, but it's damn near there. It's very close to it. They just slapped this veneer of capitalism over it.
Right. I see. Because China does something similar as well, where they have this capitalism, and again, relative to Mao, because you have to see where they came from. They also have a similar model with regards to some companies as well. They still have they still have this state interference and so forth. I mean, they've done well. But and when I say well, I'm talking about from Mao, of course. Over recent times, maybe not so good, because I've heard when the economy does bad, they have like these anti-foreigner campaigns to get people's attention off the economy and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm sorry. Huh?
I don't myself have spoken about this as well. Everybody's like, "Oh, China's doing well." People don't see
literally the last episode.
Oh yeah, sorry. Certain parts of my memory is dodgy. There's a billion plus people in China. There's a unbelievable amount of people in China. People look at Beijing and those places. Oh, look how good it is. They're lifting everybody out of poverty. And meanwhile, there's millions upon millions upon millions of people staying out in the rice paddies, living off of a cup of rice a day. And because their work, quote unquote, is forced labor by the government, it's counted as employed and not impoverished, because commies are going to lie about their stats. They always have, they always will. So China is doing good on the face of it, but I promise you, if Winnie the Pooh's government should collapse tomorrow and the UN troops go in there and they start digging through all the documents, there will be horror stories for years. Same as we had with the USSR. It's just a nice little veneer that gets slapped over it. It's not doing as well as people think. Not nearly as well.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So sorry for the diverge. What is it?
I mean, it is the No Script Show. I will say, speaking of China and capitalism, have you guys heard of and this is me finally talking some tech on what is technically a tech show. But anyway, have you guys heard of the Freedom Phone?
No, please. I like the name, and I'm thinking it's something that I got an expectation of what it is, and I hope it meets that expectation. Let's hear it.
Unfortunately, like the girl in the bar at 2 a.m., it will be a letdown. That is not a reference to my night last night.
Yes.
I feel like I'm the only guy on any show where everybody, like, for some reason just turns into smoke the host mode. Like I'm the only guy on any show where everyone's just smoking me and I'm the host. But anyway,
it's a tradition now, Odin.
Like, go back, you will see episodes. And all of you are guilty of this, by the way. It's like randomly in the middle of an episode, it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna smoke him now. This is what did I do? Anyway,
yeah. Man, look, it ain't our fault that you've got that thing.
Yeah, man.
What?
Okay, I can tell you why it happens, Adam.
Okay, sure.
Okay, it's like the four of us here now. Okay, between the four of us, you are the one with the more rambunctious lifestyle. So not necessarily in reality, but that's what's perceived if you look at the social medias and interactions with you and stuff like that. And in a situation like this, the more conservative, quiet, just go about their business people will always, because you stand out already as a bit more colorful character and colorful lifestyle, you will automatically be targeted for light-hearted ridicule every time. It's just the way it works.
That actually makes a lot of sense. But okay, the Freedom Phone. So
yes.
I'm not going to name names because there's a lot of conservative commentators on Twitter who are pushing this thing. And the reason I'm not going to name names is because they actually do good work otherwise. But on this one, if they're pushing it, they really should stop. So the Freedom Phone is this phone, and it's punted as a phone for, shall we say, the rabid leftist demographic of the consumer market, right? And it's pushed as this phone. It's this all American phone. It's got a little flag on the back and everything. It's got a flavor of Android that's all clean and neat. It's got all sorts of apps on it for freedom of speech type apps. It's got its own little app market, so you can even get apps that aren't necessarily on the Android market. And it sounds great and it looks great. It's rather, there's two problems with it. It's rather expensive because it is a $500 phone.
Cheapest.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I don't even know what $500 is in Rand.
No, that's like cheapest.
It's
That's about
7,500,
7.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7.68 thousand. Yeah.
It's not that expensive, actually.
But I mean, realistically, it's kind of expensive considering that my monthly groceries don't even get near that. I mean, you could get. I'm not a light drinker, and I can go out and get pretty much absolutely wrecked drunk for like $30-$40. So just to put that in perspective. So anyway, so it's this $500 phone and it's all great. Two problems. One, it's $500, and two, I took a look at this thing and I've researched it and Googled it, and from every piece of objective available evidence, what the Freedom Phone is actually a rebranded, I don't know how you pronounce it, UmiDigi or UmiDigi A9 Pro. And that's a problem because one, the actual UmiDigi A9 Pro is $120, and two, the UmiDigi A9 Pro is a Chinese-made phone with a Chinese chipset. It doesn't matter if you have Android on your phone. If they have a Chinese chipset, all that privacy is out the window, guys. So any of you listening to me, seriously think twice about buying this thing. Seriously, cost aside, I don't care if your favorite conservative waifu punted it on Twitter or whatever. Like, seriously
Hey,
think twice
don't you
about
dare
buying.
start mentioning names.
I'm not gonna mention names.
Brandon Tatum, okay, I'm joking. I'm just putting a name out there, bro.
It's
Not to
guys
say that
and
he did
girls.
do it.
It's guys and girls, but anyway.
Okay.
My point is, and again, like I said, I prefaced it by saying, most of them actually do good work. But again, the Umi Digi 9 A9 Pro is a Chinese chipset phone, guys. The whole clean Android thing kind of goes out the window if it's running on a Chinese chipset.
Hold up. Okay, Umi DGA9. This is running a MediaTek Helio processor. I thought MediaTek is a Taiwanese company.
Is it?
Is there a difference?
At this point, no.
Well, I still like to separate them, and and again, I'm no John Cena, so I'm not going to apologize for saying, they are a separate country from China. But yeah, I figured MediaTek is a Taiwanese company. That's basically, one of the partners of your TSMCs and the like. But with that said, if it is just a rebrand, chipset aside, if it is just a rebrand, then someone is looking at making coin here. Yeah, I mean, go from 199 US to 500 that's a pretty decent profit margin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, if you want to be technical, that one chip is, but still, I don't trust it. I don't trust that this thing is the all-encompassing portal to freedom it's sold as.
Yeah.
But you know what the speedrun phone is?
What?
It's like Parler for social media.
It actually has.
It probably comes with Parler built in, right?
It does actually come with Parler.
Yeah, it does come with it preloaded. But do you guys remember when Parler came back online after they got booted everywhere? And it was like, oh, Parler is for free speech, what? And then not even a month later, the first guy got banned off the site. It's going to be the same thing. But you can't. I was waiting for this to happen because a lot of people were complaining about the censorship and the spying and data mining and all of that stuff. And people were screaming out, listen, we need a device that doesn't have all these issues. Obviously, someone was going to fill that gap. Someone was going to supply the market. It was inevitable.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Hey, like for me, this is really just one of those things where I don't think there's any safe space anymore, if we have to be honest, because, I get what Trump did by, banning Chinese imports in an attack on Huawei, ZTE, and a couple of others, of course. But like Odin's bringing up as well, when it comes to the components game, you have to source some stuff from China regardless. So coming out with a Freedom Phone or anything similar, you're not gonna win. You're absolutely not gonna win.
But okay, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
okay, I can't hear
up on the
Martin.
tech, but okay, guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you now, Martin. Yep.
Okay, I'm not that clued up on the tech, but even if they're using a Chinese chipset, it should be possible to get to block it from like sending data to Mao all the way in China. I mean, I can't see where it's not possible to block it, to prevent any data mining and stuff like that.
Well, think of it this way, right?
Chipset.
Put it this way. The phone would typically have to phone home, pun intended. The phone typically has to phone home for even some basic things like, checking for an update, etc., right? How do you know which telemetry or which metadata it's sending in its in that request to actually phone home?
You don't.
Yeah, you can't know that. You might know where the server is that it's sending information to back and forth, but what is this actual information?
You don't know. You can't know what it's sending back.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now.
All right.
Understand.
So,
Okay.
I've got a tech question. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No. Carry on, Martin. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I want to go to a different topic. So if you have something to say, go for it.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that. Look, when it comes to these these tech stuff, just from what you guys are saying now, it looks like that this phone that you're talking about is just another rebrand. And could it just be that someone has observed the market and has realized that, look, there's this thing of big tech versus freedom fighters or freedom lovers, not to say that those who are on the freedom side are freedom lovers, but it's just a label that of people that are concerned about big tech. It seems that someone has seen an opportunity here to create something that really isn't what it is, and then they sell it and they make money. It's quite an interesting thing. So I just have to say to that guy who came up with the idea, not with the implementation, but at least with the idea of creating a phone that's like that meets the freedom objectives. I got to say props to him. But even though the phone sucks, from what I can hear, the idea was good.
Fair.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, but it's a very, very old idea. I mean, it's something that's done continuously in consumer products. And take the Mercedes-Benz X whatever pickup that the Mercedes-Benz.
Oh my God, that thing was hideous.
Actually, it's just
oh my God,
it's got a bit of Tupperware
hideous.
slapped onto it, bit of extra bells and whistles, and there you go. Pay 3 times the price for it.
Gross. That was gross. That was so fucking gross. I swear on my block, if any of you ever try to pick me up in one of those Mercedes X classes, I'm just gonna walk. I'm just gonna fucking walk. I don't care. I don't care if we're driving home from California to Florida. I will fucking walk before I get in one of those things.
Hey, man.
On the topic of pickups, I don't know. I see on your side of the ocean, people are rather upset with that new little Jeep pickup that they brought out, where they took a Wrangler and made it a pickup.
I had no
you see
idea,
that?
but okay.
That should be a crime.
They
Wrangler.
They took a Wrangler
What's it
and
called?
they made it a pickup. I can't remember the name off I had it just now and I forgot it. But yeah, they just took a Wrangler and made it a pickup. So you've got a load bed smaller than the 1400 buckies, and you have to have a stair to like a little ladder to get up and load anything on the thing.
2021.
It's called the Jeep Gladiator.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
Let me see. I'm just Googling the car, guys. Just wanted to.
That's gross.
Look, it doesn't look too bad, but I would not spend money on this. Hell no.
There are better ways to waste your money.
You could buy a Ford.
Hey. Okay. People in North Florida drive plenty of Fords, and as a resident of North Florida, I will not hear ill spoken of Ford in my presence.
Because they can't afford anything with a Cummins motor in it, dude. Dodge.
So what you're saying is, are you calling my state poor or dumb?
That's the general consensus about most of the southern states, dude. Just FYI.
I know that. And yet there are so many fucking New Yorkers and people from LA flooding year after year into these states. Honestly. But to be honest, New York's actually a really nice city. It's just filled with New Yorkers. That's the problem. Like,
Yeah, you're not the first person to say this, actually. It's like New York is great. There's one problem. The people.
they're
It's like Cape Town as well.
I will openly say this. I have family that live in New York City. I will openly say, Cape Town. On the odd chance that Lucas hears this, my boy Lucas, or our other co-host Conscious Caracal, like I will not dunk on Cape Town. I have family that lives in New York City, and it is a garbage place full of. I know it's a great place filled with garbage people. Like 99% of the people I've met there, it's just terrible fucking human beings. And the irony is they're always like, why is this place so terrible, filled with terrible people? Because of you. You are all terrible to each other.
Yo. I'd like to see this. I'd like to see this. I need to go to America for.
I was
just
sitting
a
there
few
over
weeks.
Memorial Day weekend and sitting there with some people, and the one dude said, yeah, so we're basically like King's Landing from Game of Thrones. I'm like, that's not the win you think it is. That's not the win you think it is, buddy. The whole point of King's Landing is that it is a horrible city filled. I mean, a city filled with horrible people.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of a tech question. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Chaos monkey. Are you familiar with that principle? Or that
Chaos monkey? No.
Yes. I know Netflix uses it, but as best as I can understand what it does, it's sort of I don't know if it's a program or protocol or whatever, but it breaks down like continually. It will take a bit of the software that has been written, and then it like goes through it to look for errors or possible failure points or something like that.
He is responsible for randomly terminating instances in production to ensure that engineers implement their services to be resilient to instance failures.
I remember now. I remember it now. When you wanna keep yourself inside of a job, so you occasionally break one small thing here and there to ensure that the support call comes in, and you fix a predetermined problem, but you mysteriously take 8 hours to fix the problem that you could fix in 5 minutes since you created it.
Okay. Because I was wondering how it works.
It says it sells itself as randomly terminating instances in production to ensure that engineers implement their services to be resilient to instance failures. So basically, it's randomly breaking stuff to make sure that your software is resilient. And then I guess, as Goketa said, it's you kind of know how to fix it. I mean, that's one way to do things. I come from a background where the software we had to write was so badly defined that shit kind of broke anyway, so we didn't need I hear people defining solutions. I'm like, okay, but what do you actually want it to do? And the definition is so vague and difficult to understand that anything you implement is just going to be a mess anyway. So
yeah. I didn't realize this is actually a thing. Like I've heard it being used a couple of times, but I didn't realize it's an actual thing where you deploy a program to delete 1 or 2 lines of code in a very specific file. Everything breaks, and guess what? You just redeploy the working file you had redeployed before, and everyone's happy again.
Right, guys, that is smart and devious.
What I checked is
Netflix.
Because the way I think it goes and deletes a line of code or something. But it looks to me like it's so to ensure that the complete code doesn't have a single point of failure, so that if you take out one bit of code, the whole thing crashes.
It's basically
because that's the way I understood it. And I was wondering if you could apply the same principle to governments. Just randomly take out a minister and see where the failures are, and then build it like that.
Well, if you randomly take out a minister, firstly, no one will notice.
Unless it's jail.
Yeah, but even then, like, is there marked difference with him being there or not?
I guess the system will actually have to work in the first place to break it.
Yeah.
Well, the system's working precisely how it's meant to work, guys.
Not at all.
Not at all. I mean, I know guys who work in certain government departments where the minister or the DG, they have like a very nice corner office and what have you. 9 times out of 10, this person is not in the building. Everything, and people still carry on like it's nothing, or here's a better one. Remember the time Jacob used to like reshuffle ministers in the middle of the night, and there's a story apparently where
oh yeah, that was like The Bachelor, but for government, like ministers.
Yeah, and like
you accept this rose. That's he did.
There's even a story of, I don't remember which minister, but they actually came out and said they were sitting in a meeting, and you're having a very high level meeting here, talking big stuff, and by the end of the meeting, before the meeting ended, the PA is like begging to come into the room and pull away this minister so she can actually tell him that listen, you can't actually make certain promises because you're no longer the minister. So So to me, that kind of signals that, okay, so what the poor broken system does actually work somewhat without the minister being there. So yeah, I think even if you pull one card out of this house of cards, the whole thing actually doesn't come crumbling down because it's only two layers.
It's insane.
So it's basically like building like a house of cards with just 2 floors. Like only
Yeah,
have,
it's
like,
just got 2 floors. So you pull
there's
one
2
out.
at the-
You pull one out and the whole thing doesn't come down because there's no whole thing to begin with.
None of that will ever top though. Because let us never forget that old Presidente 45, Donnie from Queens, fired the FBI director on TV. Did you guys? I'm old enough to remember that because James Comey was head of the FBI at the time, and he learned that he's being fired while he was speaking to a group of FBI employees in LA. And this is like, I have to find the video. It's basically like playing behind him or just in his peripheral vision that's like director James Comey has been fired and he doesn't realize it. He's just talking like that is peak Donnie from Crease. That's just like that's just
Dude, that happened to a Bafana coach as well after South Africa failed to qualify for the African Cup of Nations, where half the continent was actually, because of COVID and whatnot, they kind of expanded the number of teams.
Right.
So half the continent was going to participate. Literally 50% of all the countries was going to be in this new format, and South Africa still didn't qualify. And there's a press conference like the following morning where the management at SAFA is basically announcing that, I think they said something along the lines of, we're searching for a new coach or something like that. So obviously all the media goes to the current coach and he's like, I haven't been fired. To my knowledge, I still have a job. I'm still going to the office tomorrow. Like your boss's boss has just said they're looking for your replacement. So,
damn.
If it's like the FBI director or coach or something, you don't want to give him a heads up and give him time to like gather data or make the team negative
files.
or something like that. I mean, you just want to cut it off without him giving him any opportunity to do anything negative.
Clone the hard drives.
Yeah.
Just phone him 5 to 7 one morning and say, sorry, you don't have to come into the office anymore. Done. Stay at home.
Although if you're a good FBI director, you would have cloned the hard drives anyway. Like have backups.
That is true.
Speaking of which, I'm still hoping that old John McAfee's dead man switch actually finally triggers.
Deploys. Yes. Yeah. We need that.
Oh, okay. Like if I don't check in after X amount of days, then deploy this code.
Yeah, you can do that. There's lots of. I'll give you links to it. It's easy. Wow. There's a lot of software that does that, and it can trigger your email to send a certain email or release something. It's actually really easy. And as I was saying in the previous episode, I am 100% certain someone like John McAfee had a dead man switch, and it is. I'm just waiting. And hoping, because
he's exactly the kind of guy to do that as well.
In fact, I think he would have had several. I think he would have had several.
Yeah.
Like even Snowden wouldn't do this, but John would.
I mean, I remember our interview with that guy, and he is fucking crazy. Brilliant, but fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a nutter.
Yeah, man. I kind of regret not interviewing him. I thought one day, and then, oh my God. But I'm glad you did it, Odin. I'm glad you did it.
Yeah, it was wild. He's like I said, he's brilliant, but he's wild. Yeah, and that kind of makes me sad now, but at least we got that episode.
Should interview my man Kim.com as well.
While he's
still around.
Is he not in jail?
My man Kim, nah. What? He ain't in jail.
Huh. Why did I think he was in jail?
Unless I missed something. Nah, he ain't in jail. He is not in jail.
Who was I thinking of?
Yes, he's tweeted from what? He tweeted a day ago even.
Oh no, I was thinking about what's his name? Ross Ulbricht, the guy who made the Silk Road.
Silk Road guy's in jail?
Yeah.
Jeepers.
Damn. Okay. Okay.
Bro.
Wow. Okay.
Bro, in the and he's getting up there in age. He's 37 now.
Okay.
Dude, I told you in the battle between you and the Feds, always bet on the Feds.
Yeah. Like 9 out of 10 times they're always gonna win. Like
The Feds
Yeah,
always win. Just
I
let's
was-
see.
I was
Conviction,
telling
money
this to
laundering. Yeah.
my sister. So, like, you know how we have like this whole Gupta this and Gupta that. I was just telling my sister that, I gotta give Gupta's credit because notice how they never went after like American companies and all their thieving. Because they know that, when push comes to shove, once the feds are on you, it's tickets.
Yeah, you're done, right?
You're done. So
they were
yeah,
smart enough to know who not to mess with.
who not to mess with. Yeah, so I'll give them kudos for that. But yeah, had they screwed over some American company somewhere, you best believe this whole thing would have been wrapped up by now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, rule one of stealing is don't get greedy.
Yeah.
but rule 1 is always broken, I guess.
Yes.
Rule 1 is always broken. Again, guys, not to get into the conspiracy side of Twitter, but like the Feds killed their own president. They killed JFK. They got John Matt. Like the Feds will always win. Just accept that.
Well, they've been playing the game a lot longer than anyone else. I don't think there's an individual on the planet that's been in that game longer than the FBI. They've been doing it for a long, long time with a big budget.
And basically all the 3-letter organizations, the FBI, the CIA, the
NSA.
I know they do some dodgy stuff, but honestly, if I could take a high-powered job there, I would.
Yeah, no, I definitely would as well.
I'd take it. Like if you like some NSA, CIA field, I'd take it. It's like, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go assassinate this dude in Cuba or whatever. But look at this paycheck. Look at this job security.
Man, but it's messed up. Why can't South Africa's 3-letter agencies have any form of grit? NPA useless, SSA useless. Who else am I missing here?
ANC useless.
They're not useless, guys. I keep telling people they are not useless. They are doing precisely what they wanted to do.
Yeah,
we are on the next step to the national democratic revolution. They're not useless. They're doing precisely what they want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I would.
Fair enough.
I mean, look, they've got a lot of useless people, but there is a malicious, fairly competent small core of people in the ANC surrounded by many layers of incompetence. But I used to think, oh, they're just bad at this. I'm like, no, I think they're actually doing a lot of this on purpose. It's another step to the NDR.
So you believe that there is an actual method to all of this madness?
I think so. Yeah, I'm going to take the long bet and say this is all part of the move to the NDR.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give the ANC that benefit. I won't give it to like the EFF, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone actually tweeted today that the EFF, within the space of a month, went from we don't want the vaccine because white monopoly capital pharmaceutical industry is using black people as lab rats, to then marching for the Chinese and Russian vaccines for them to be deployed en masse. Like all within a matter of days. Like
makes sense. I guess my only thing I've got left to say on back on the home front is speaking of Twitter is are any of you guys still having fun on Twitter anymore? Because I'm not. I fucking hate Twitter now. I actually do. It is mostly because I know Gogeto's sparred with her probably, but like people will not stop talking about this Robin Porteous lady. The only reason I know she exists is because there's a bunch of accounts that post her shit daily. Like I said, I just tweeted a response to them, to some of these accounts. I said, I swear it's like watching 16-year-olds, dunk on the girl they have a crush on. You are making the same mistake that the left did with Trump in 2016. By mainlining her, you are making her bigger. And like Marcus Aurelius said, fire takes whatever you throw at it and makes it fuel. Now, is there some way to engage with her to take her down a peg? Sure. I think people like Koketso can do that. But most people who dunk on her are just making her bigger.
Isn't she the one that accused you of blackface, Odin?
No, that's Bianca.
Oh, yeah.
Who, by the way, again, please stop tagging me in that. That meme is so fucking dead. And then every time you bring it up, you're giving her more hype. That's why I don't respond when people are like, oh, isn't that what you did to @WotanZA? I don't respond to that shit anymore because you're mainlining her. Like, it's so stupid. It's just...
I think the thing is with those two individuals, you're not going to win that fight. You're not going to convince them of anything. You're not going to change their minds. You just, the more they get hammered, the more they're going to double down. It's the thing leftists has always done. No matter how much they fail, no matter how much they get proven wrong, they are going to double down. People like that just they can't get past their ego and take the L and say, okay, I've screwed up here. Let's reevaluate and change course accordingly. Their egos just won't allow them to do that. They're going to double down every single time.
Yeah, Martin, I have to agree with you there because I'm still reading this book, actually, Speechless by, what's his name, Michael Knowles.
Oh, you actually got it?
Yeah. So I'm still reading that, and he talks about precisely what Martin just said as well, that, we who are conservative are particularly guilty of this as well, that we're playing right into the leftists' hands, and most of us don't realize it. Matter of fact, I didn't even realize it until he started expanding on what he means by this. So yeah, it's good to hear that actually, there are people who are aware of this. But yeah, I've certainly been checking myself to make sure that I don't fall for the trap. But it is a trap.
Interesting talking about this Robin Porteous person. How many simps she's got?
I didn't know she even existed.
She has got so many simps. It's not even a joke. There's one in particular. Like I don't know if you saw that tweet that
Kyle, right? Or what's his name?
Mr. Kyle Smith. Oh my goodness.
What?
So
a mildly attractive female on Twitter with simps? Never. I can't believe it. It's not possible.
So basically, this guy,
what
he
happened?
simped. Okay,
is the tweet still there? Like, can I find it?
I think you may find it, but it's just a matter of like digging. So basically, it looks like Carl Smith was talking about was tagging Robin in his discussions that he had with other people about Robin. And then Robin intervened and said, hi, quick comments to the both of you. No more the talking about Robin fucking or not fucking. Sorry for swearing. Or really any aspects of my being. I'm not a show pony due to get judged in a show. This is weird and creepy. Stop.
Okay, I'm going to say she actually is right on that one, but yeah.
Wait, it wasn't Carl Smith, though. It wasn't Carl Smith. It was another Kyle.
No, it was him. It was him, bruh. It was him. And then Carl Smith responded by saying, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said any of this. Deleting genuinely was shit. Dick move. And this is not the first time he simped. The one time Robin put up something about purple hair, and then she took a photo of herself wearing with a purple wig. And then Carl responded by saying, oh, I love purple. Right? And I was like, oh my goodness. But he's been trying so hard. You can see that he's really trying to get with her, and he keeps getting the L's.
And I'm told that she's married or something.
Look at that.
Or engaged.
Look at that.
Okay. Can I just raise another point? how weird is it that you get these people on Twitter, and usually females, they'll post the pictures and everything and to get attention, and then when they get attention, they complain about it.
No, that's pretty
just-
much par for the course.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yes, but I know it's definitely par for the course, but it's a weird phenomenon, and it's just they want to get the adoration, but then when they get the adoration, they want to claim foul.
Oh yeah,
And-
yeah.
and
I've
no
seen
one
that quite a
seems to-
bit.
And people everybody, the second they cry foul, everybody supports them. Oh yeah, you shouldn't objectify, and well, dudes, that's what they're doing. They're asking for the adoration. It's just one of those weird internet things that
Speaking of Daily
grinds
Wire
my
people,
gears.
Ben Shapiro pointed this out is in that it's the same thing with people who have like multicolored hair or massive amounts of piercings or weird body mods. And then when you notice, they're like, dude, what is up with you noticing? And Ben points this out. It's like, no, you should call them out and be like, no, you obviously wanted this to be noticed. Okay, let me see this. Hi, quick. Oh, wow.
You see? That's
Wow.
it, guys. That's the tweet right there in front of you.
Carl, I thought Carl was betting for our team here, man, but
Yeah. No way, bruh.
People are coming up with the receipts.
okay. You know what? Look, at the end of the day, I suppose all men are fallible, and I think Robin's
That's
pretty
true.
attractive, so probably Carl. Carl biologically took the L.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say she is actually quite attractive, but what I was gonna say is with regard to with all these chicks, my official stance from here on out is it's obvious that my worldview and theirs are in conflict, but I don't know what they're like personally in their relationships or whatever, but I genuinely, when I say this, I mean it in the most neutral way possible. I just don't care, and I'm not going to engage him. Like, I just don't care. I'm not adding fuel to that fire anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
It isn't. Yeah. It's because even me, I saw as well. I also learned that way. Because I have to agree with you. I am kind of enjoying Twitter, but just consuming the content. Tweeting is not as enjoyable as it used to be. But
it's not. Like, I'm just there for the shit posts at this point. Like when Bill Cosby got out.
I actually came back to Twitter because in the I don't know, I enjoy Twitter. Okay, but I think it depends on what type of accounts you interact with on Twitter, because at least half of the accounts that I interact with are not. It's the people don't post political stuff hardly ever. They don't share political articles or your critical race theory type articles or social justice type articles. They just keep it to their interests and stuff outside of the social political sphere for the most part. And then the interactions become much more enjoyable because you don't have to keep your guard up and make sure that someone's not trying to get you in something, or you can just have fun on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speak of it, Martin, did you come back with a different handle or?
Yeah, I came back with a different handle.
Okay, because I remember you disappeared, but I ain't seen you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please
I got
DM us.
fed up at a stage with getting 12-hour and 24-hour bans the whole time. So then I deleted the account. And just for everybody out there, when you delete your Facebook account, Facebook lies. They never delete your account, ever.
Yep. We are well aware, I think. Yeah, but for the viewers or the listeners, yeah.
Because I deleted my Facebook account, and 6 months later, boop, you want to sign up for a new account, and they just give you back your old one, the one that was supposedly deleted, and you'll never get your content and your pictures and stuff back, still sitting there.
Someone ran the experiment a few years ago, but even if you create a new one, right, Facebook will still correlate your new account with your old account, suggest the same friends that you have in your old accounts as well. Yeah.
So Facebook is the herpes of the social medias. It really is.
Yeah,
Actually,
so shout out to Apple actually for what they're doing to kind of, stop Facebook or cut down significantly how much data Facebook is pulling from their users, of course, via phones especially. So yeah, shout
Ethically,
out to
I
Apple for
cannot
that.
condone anything.
I don't like Apple per se, but like,
Yeah.
they're the biggest in
Me
big
neither.
tech who's trying to do something about this problem.
Yeah. It's
Well, they must do
cardinal
something
rule.
with all
If
the
you
money
don't-
they're getting for their phones.
Yeah, that's true. It's
Yeah,
the
also
cardinal
that's
rule.
the
If you don't pay
price.
for a product, you are the product. If you don't pay
Product.
for a product, you are the product. It's that simple. And at this point, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I only have Facebook just to like message some people who on Facebook and stuff. But beyond that, I haven't posted anything really on Facebook in years. And I just keep getting tagged and shit. I see notifications and like friends requests from people. Are like, I'm never going to do anything on Facebook further than just messaging people. That's it.
Facebook and Instagram are there. There's only one use for it, and that's looking up what other people are up to. But
Yeah.
effectively,
Yeah.
like low-key spying on other people. That's all that they're good for.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I'm tapped out for stuff today, but I don't know if you guys have anything extra you want to mention first.
I enjoyed this, guys. That's all I want to say. This was really cool. Greatest ever conversation I've had in a long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Hotan. Really appreciated this.
Got you. I just have to
appreciate
still
that.
like cut the episode together, but I'll drop it tomorrow morning or something. I don't know, Martin and I will work on it, but yeah. Gents, you'll each of you your final rounds. But before I go, I will say have a good Saturday, boys. I know alcohol is banned there, but I must say, if I were to be drinking in South Africa, then I would be remiss if I did not mention our very, very generous sponsor, which is JB's Pub. JB's Pub is the premier private grill, pub, jacuzzi place. Yes, they have a jacuzzi now in Joburg. Now, JB's Pub is the kind of place where you feel like you're in the middle of an episode of How I Met Your Mother or Friends if you're a hipster and like that dumbass show. And it just feels amazing every time you're there. Nothing bad ever happens at JB's. And you just, I mean, aside from hammering your kidneys, but aside from that small detail, nothing bad ever happens there. So if you ever get an invite, I strongly advise you to frequent our generous sponsor, JB's Pub, where our co-host Ruan 99% spends his time drinking, and I really hope they tell him to stop drinking so much there. That's it. That's my ad spot. You boys can sound off on your last bits.
Yeah,
Well,
I just want to say, I just want to say how funny and sad at the same time it is that the one host that's punting the sponsor is not able to enjoy the sponsor.
Yes, I know. Ron has like a JB's Pub shirt. He's there like 3 times a week at least. I'm like, what about me?
You get to stay in Florida, Odin.
That's true. That is very true. I don't know if that's always a good thing, given the heat right now. By the way, I want to apologize to Louis on Twitter because he's from Durban. And, well, current things aside, I always used to rip on people from Durban. I'm like, yeah, okay, but the Northwest is hot too. Yeah, hot. Yesterday it was 90 degrees at 5 in the afternoon. So that's like, what, 31 degrees
35.
Celsius? 35
Oh, my
degrees
word.
Celsius.
I'd love to be there.
At
Mhm.
it was still 90 even at like 6-7 o'clock, and the sun was up and it was 90, and the humidity was like walking into a fucking sauna. So for the people from that part of the country who I've always dunked on and said the heat isn't that bad, I officially apologize. I was wrong.
I'm busy tweeting Louis right now, actually, that you've apologized.
Once again, it's always smoke me mode on the show.
Well, Odin, maybe if you follow through with your threats to settle down, it might chill out a bit.
Well, I'm in a good place now, so hopefully I'll find someone.
Yeah.
Okay, let me sign off. Yeah, no, gents, thanks for this. It was very enlightening. It's always good to actually chat with people who think. So yeah, I think this was quite a safe space. So yeah, before we get back to the madness, I just want to say shout out to the three other gentlemen I was with here, and keep it real, everyone. Otherwise, I do not make any promises that I'm going to behave on Twitter. I've never been banned or suspended or anything, so I know exactly how to skirt the line. So if you want to know how to do it.
I got banned for tweeting a Chief Keef lyric to another black man. I mean, granted, Chief Keef is trash these days, but come on.
Yeah. So hey, I've never been banned, so yeah, I think I know how to skirt that line. So yeah, peace.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Just one thing. Because just for the people that don't know Dumo and Kaketso, you guys must have your own show as well, don't you?
Oh
yes. We've got the part where we punt some Twitters and shows and all that. Let's do that.
Self-promotion.
Manpatria podcast, guys. Koketso and Zuzo and I, we have conversations. We just recorded an episode today. It's going to be released on Monday, 5 episodes. So it's every Monday at 7:00. So please, I know Mondays are probably the worst days of the week, but we make it better. So yeah, watch us on Monday, 7:00 on YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah, that's Manpatria.
Cool. And I guess you can find us at No Script Show on Twitter.
Sure.
And my own handle is at WotanZA. I might change it to at WotanFL for Florida. Nah, I'm gonna keep the brand. I'll keep the brand.
WotanBW.
Yeah, bruh. I mean, like, if Cape Town's gonna secede, we're gonna need to have another show. But if Cape Town's gonna secede, doesn't that mean the Northwest is up for grabs? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Grabs.
Yeah, no, I agree, but we have to exclude Taung though. We don't want no Taung in the new nation. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, no.
Wow. Okay.
My cousins actually. I actually have cousins that live there. But anyway, that's the funniest part. I actually have cousins that live there. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, I think we're done. And thanks for coming through, gents. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Been good, man. All right, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
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 Cheers.